Lemonada.
You're managing work, home, late night school projects, and your parents' doctor's visits too. You track every detail, yet somehow it still feels like you're carrying it all. That is where Vivid Vault steps in, your secure, connected health hub that brings everyone together. Upload your health data, link wearable devices, and give trusted family members access to what matters most.
Imagine your mom's medication list, your fitness insights, and your child's latest checkup notes all in one protected space. No more digging through the files or chasing portal passwords. Just peace of mind knowing your health story is safe, organized, and shared only with those you trust. Because managing health should be shared, and Vivid Vault makes it simple for your whole village to stay involved. Prioritize your well-being. Protect your family's future. Sign up today at vividvaulthealth.org. Hello, we're here for Move Happier, a bonus episode of the Happier with Gretchen Rubin podcast, where we get happier and we are also working on adding more movement into our everyday lives. Join us for some weekend listening, a looser vibe, and some movement to boot. Now, this is a super fun bonus episode. I'm joined by my old friend Sophie Gee for a literary walk. As we've talked about on the Happier with Gretchen Rubin podcast, this year for 2026, my co-host and sister Elizabeth and I are challenging ourselves and listeners to move 26, to move for 26 minutes a day in 2026. In this episode, for our own personal 26 minutes of movement, Sophie and I are going to talk about a book that is a favorite of both of us, From the Mixed Up Files of Mrs. Basil E. Frankweiler. And we're also going to explore the Metropolitan Museum and look for items related to this iconic book. For your own 26 minutes of movement, you can listen in on our conversation, and we made voice recordings along the way. But before you hear from Sophie and me, let me tell you about Sophie. Sophie Gee is an English professor at Princeton University and is currently the inaugural Vice Chancellor's Fellow at the University of Sydney. She's leading a project that shares the ideas and skills of humanities across all parts of the university and into the public. She's the author of acclaimed fiction and literary criticism, including Making Waste, Leftovers on the 18th Century Imagination, and the forthcoming The Barbarous Feast, Eating and Writing in the 18th Century World, and she has written a novel, The Scandal of the Season. She is also the host of one of my very favorite podcasts, the very popular podcast, The Secret Life of Books, which is a brilliant, hilarious, and addictive podcast about the hidden stories behind masterpiece books. Not only that, Sophie is a former member of my children's literature reading group. So for today's episode, Sophie and I are going to combine 26 minutes of moving with a discussion of a classic children's book. The novel we've chosen, as I said, is the masterpiece of children's literature, From the Mixed Up Files of Mrs. Basil E. Frankweiler by E. L. Konigsberg. And because that novel takes place in the Metropolitan Museum of Art, we're going to walk through the museum together. One of the odd things about me is that ever since I wrote my book, Life in Five Senses, I've visited the Met every day. I feel like the more I go, the more there is to see. I'm excited to make this visit with Sophie. Hi, Sophie!
Hi, Gretchen.
This is so fun.
This is so fun.
I am so excited to be spending this time with you. How great. And you know, I am the hugest fan of The Secret Life of Books, so I'm very excited to have this mashup.
Thank you. Right back at you. I feel like this has been something we've sort of wanted to do for 15 years.
Yeah.
And now we're finally doing it.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So I love that we're doing this for Move 26, Gretchen, because it's very consistent with the worldview of Slob, The Secret Life of Books, which is my podcast. And on Slob, I and my co-host, John T. Claypole, we like to joke that we read the classic books so that you don't have to. We don't totally mean that. What we really mean is that we read classic books to help people discover and rediscover the fun and the joy of their greatness in a low-impact, high cardio way. So one of the very best ways to find joy in classic books is with audiobooks, I think.
Yes, yes.
Listening while you move. And studies now show that it's just as good for you mentally, cognitively, to listen to an audiobook as it is to read a physical text. So couldn't be better for Move 26.
I know. I'm so excited. Now, just to set the scene, we are now in my apartment.
Yes.
We're in the room where all of my children's literature books are. So we're like really imbibing the atmosphere. And let's set the stage because we are going to head to the Met to look at some of the objects in The Brilliant from the Mixed Up Files of Mrs. Basil E. Frankweiler. But just to give people an idea of who E.L. Konigsberg is, the author, she wrote so many extraordinary novels for children. I mean, many of her books are among my very favorite novels of all time. And she is the only author ever to have won the very prestigious Newbery Medal and to be a runner-up in the same year.
It's totally amazing.
And it was like right at the beginning of her career. She
I
had
know.
two on the same list on the same year. She's absolutely extraordinary. And I think this is probably, what do you think? I mean, you're all about the iconic book. I think this is the most iconic of her iconic books. Do you think?
I think it is.
Yeah.
I think it is. I mean, there's something just, it's a perfect book.
It's a perfect book.
I realize every time I read it,
Yes.
I just like, this is a perfect book.
Yes.
And then she actually won the Newbery again. She won it a second time for The View from Saturday.
From The View from Saturday.
For The View from Saturday.
30 years later.
Incredible.
But there's so many books that
And so
should have won that
deserved. So
in
deserved.
between.
Yeah.
Yes.
She's
yes.
amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, she's amazing.
So, Gretchen, let me set the listeners up with how this novel goes. 11-year-old Claudia Kincaid and her 9-year-old brother Jamie decide that they're going to run away from their Connecticut suburb. They're in Greenwich, and they're going to spend a week living in the Met, in the Metropolitan Museum of Art. They sleep in an elegant but extremely musty 16th century bed. They scoop up their spending money from a fountain inside the museum, which we're going to talk about in a minute. And they even tackle an important mystery about the authenticity of a statue that has recently arrived in the museum that has been attributed to Michelangelo. And the book just goes from there. It's such a roller coaster. Let's hear the opening because it's an incredible landing in a place.
It is. The sense that you get of Claudia, her character, why they're doing this, it's brilliant. Claudia knew that she could never pull off the old-fashioned kind of running away. That is, running away in the heat of anger with a knapsack on her back. She didn't like discomfort. Even picnics were untidy and inconvenient. All those insects and the sun melting the icing on the cupcakes. Therefore, she decided that her leaving home would not be just running from somewhere, but would be running to somewhere. To a large place, a comfortable place, and an indoor place, and preferably a beautiful place. And that is why she decided upon the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York City. I mean, so brilliant. And can I say one of the things that I loved about this book as a child and even as an adult is this seems like the kind of adventure you could pull off. Like the way it's explained, you think, yeah, it seems completely plausible that they could do this.
Yeah. And so this book was published in 1968. That was the year that it won the Newbery. And I almost think that in 1968, you just about could have pulled it off.
I know.
And probably the art would have been alarmed. But they hide out in the restrooms. We'll talk about that. Two kids coming into New York City on Metro North. I mean, you could have done that in the 1960s and you'd sort of be okay. Like, you can sort of understand why the parents didn't have a giant police search underway for them.
Right. And you can understand, like, why the Met didn't have the technology, like the motion detection sensors and, like, the counting of the people going in and out. Like, the way they did it seemed like, yeah, this could have worked.
You could just about do it. And that's the beauty of this book. So there's a lot about the book, I think, that makes it a real classic, even beyond the classic setting of New York City and the Metropolitan Museum and the romance of running away. I mean, these are all sort of iconic tropes of children's books.
And the survivalism. Like, there's so many books in children's that it's like, how are we going to find food? How are we going to scrape together the money that we can't do without? Like, that's always a a big
trope.
Yeah.
And normally in kids' books, I think, where there's a running away story, as Jamie thinks is going to happen because he brings his compass with him. He thinks they're going to run into the woods. He thinks they're going to go wild, and they're going to have to hunt and forage for their food. And what's so beautiful and wonderful, I think, for adults reading this book is that the settings in New York City, like the automat where they go and buy their kind of inexpensive food from for each meal, the laundromat where they end up doing a unsuccessful load of laundry, even the cafeteria in the museum, these are the places where they end up foraging and searching, and Jamie gets to use his compass after all, because they're in New York City, so you actually do need to know your directions.
Yes, it's so fun.
Yeah.
Coming up, you'll hear more of our conversation about From the Mixed Up Files of Mrs. Basil E. Frankweiler. But first, this break.
You're managing work, home, late night school projects, and your parents' doctor's visits too. You track every detail, yet somehow it still feels like you're carrying it all. That is where Vivid Vault steps in, your secure, connected health hub that brings everyone together. Upload your health data, link wearable devices, and give trusted family members access to what matters most.
Imagine your mom's medication list, your fitness insights, and your child's latest checkup notes all in one protected space. No more digging through the files or chasing portal passwords. Just peace of mind knowing your health story is safe, organized, and shared only with those you trust. Because managing health should be shared, and Vivid Vault makes it simple for your whole village to stay involved. Prioritize your well-being. Protect your family's future. Sign up today at vividvaulthealth.org.
Hey, it's Julie Louis-Dreyfus from Wiser Than Me, etc. Just popping in with a little reality check. Food waste shouldn't exist. There is no reason that our leftovers should end up in a landfill, but that's the final destination for about a third of the food we grow. God, our ancestors would be confused. They use their food scraps as compost, or as animal feed, or in weird soups, all the stuff we did before garbage was invented. But composting is hard work. Living with a bucket of rotten food on your counter is gross. Most food goes in the trash because it's easy, and these days we'll take any easy we can get. But now there's something easier. Drop your scraps in a mill food recycler. It looks like a kitchen bin, and an iPhone had a baby. It takes nearly anything, even meat and bones. It works automatically. You can keep filling it for weeks, and it never smells. When you finally empty it, you've got these nutrient-rich grounds. Use them in your garden, pour them in your green bin, or have Mill get them to a small farm so the food you don't eat can help grow the food you do, just like it should be. It's why I own a mill, why I invest in Mill, and why I'm still obsessed with my mill. If you want to get obsessed too, go to mill.com/wiser to get $75 off. That's mill.com/wiser for $75 off.
This message comes from Harvard Business School Executive Education. Now is the time to invest in yourself and change the world with your voice. Harvard Business School Executive Education programs connect you with faculty at the forefront of their fields, introduce you to a global network of leaders, and help you step into your full potential. The next chapter is yours. Let them help you write it. Apply today to accelerate your future. Learn more at hbs.me/accelerate. That's hbs.me/accelerate.
One of the things that struck me rereading it this for like the bazillionth time, I really focused on the story within a story. Because Mrs. Basil E. Frankweiler is actually the narrator of this story in a way that you don't quite understand until the very end. And Sophie, I have to confess, I think I was like 40 years old before I truly understood who is Saxonburg. How has this been put together?
Yeah.
Who has stitched together this narrative? All the pieces are there. It's explained perfectly clearly.
Totally.
But you're so caught up in like the excitement of the adventure that I didn't really focus on things like who is the audience for it. Because there's one person who this whole story is told to. Mm-hmm. And we're told that
in the second paragraph or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. No, it's an amazing piece of storytelling. So there's a few things to pull out from what you just said. It's a mystery story as well as a child's adventure story.
Yes.
And both of those things make it completely compelling because actually both parts of it are quite complex.
Yes.
The mystery of the angel, the statue in the Metropolitan, the Michelangelo statue that they're trying to find the provenance of. Right. That's a genuine mystery. It's encased within the mystery of who is this woman, Mrs. Basil E. Frankweiler, who's narrating, and who is this man, Saxenberg, who she's writing to. Uh-huh. He's her lawyer. We know that he's a tax attorney, but we don't really know what he's doing in this story. And I think maybe we shouldn't tell listeners, just in case they haven't read it.
Okay, this is the thing about The Secret Life of Books, is like, you do hold back to spoilers.
Yeah.
Okay, so
do you hold spoilers back or do you go for it?
Well, whenever we do a book club, we assume that everybody's read it,
okay.
so we go into spoilers.
I'm happy to spoil the spoilers.
But part of what I love about Secret Life of Books is it does often inspire me to go read a book that I haven't read before. So let's respect the spoilers somewhat. I think we have to. There's
a few things we have to say.
There's a few things that we really have to get to. But one of the things that I realized, one of the things that I love about Konigsberg is that she really pitches ideas at a level that are very, very sophisticated. And I think many people writing for adults don't assume that children would be interested in and can follow. And she really goes there with all these books. Like one of my other favorite books is The Second Mrs. Gioconda. And that's about the nature of creativity and the nature of character in a very sophisticated way. And I feel like here, the way the story is told, we have the narrative kind of as it's unfolding of the two children and what they're doing. But in parentheses, we get an adult narrator with a much more sophisticated sense of like the world and their own natures commenting on it. Like there's an amazing moment where the two children they often will attach themselves to school groups because Claudia is determined to learn something every day. And the narrator says in parentheses, like they learn to be part of a group on the outside of a group, but never truly part of the group. Yeah. And she says some people never learn to do this and some people learn to do it too well. Yeah. And even as like a 10-year-old, I understood that was a profound insight into human nature. But Claudia wouldn't have thought that. Jamie wouldn't have thought that. Exactly. But we know who is telling us that. It's Mrs. Frankweiler. Exactly. So you need these two levels of the story. And I was thinking about it in the context of other novels that have what we call frame narratives. Yes, so which is so common. Well, you've just been talking about what's the albatross? The Rime of the Ancient Mariner. We've just been talking about the Rime of the Ancient Mariner with the wedding guest. So we talked about Great Gatsby, which lots of people will have read. We talked about Conrad, and we've talked about the other great frame narrative that's just been everywhere in the news is Wuthering Heights. Yes. And the thing about all of those frame narratives, when you look closely at them, is that the narrator, the person who's telling the story, Frankenstein is also a frame narrative, actually. The narrator is the stooge. The narrator is the dumb person who doesn't get the full dimensions of the story. And so the reader and the other characters have to kind of put it together. The thing that I think is completely fascinating about Mixed Up Files, and you're drawing attention to this, Gretchen, is the way that the narrator, Mrs. Basil E. Frankweiler, and Saxenberg in the way background is telling one story and the children are telling another story, and they're equally important stories and they have to toggle between one another. Yes. And I was kind of thinking about this because I was listening to it on the weekend with my children, and we've listened to it, I don't know, probably 15 times across their lifetimes. They're now older teenagers and they're now getting the second story. They're getting the adult story. And it's so interesting watching readers integrate those two stories. Yeah. Well, it reminds me of Laura Ingalls Wilder, because as Laura gets older and the stories become more complex, as an adult, you see things that are implied. Totally. Or things that the child Laura does not see. Totally. But we see. Yeah. What's up with Pa and the financial situation? Yes. You know, as a child, it's like a real nail biter. Yeah. Yeah. And so it's interesting, and one of the things you always talk about in Secret Life of Books is what makes a book a classic. And something like this, where every time you read it, you can appreciate a level of it that you couldn't see before. Totally.
Totally. Actually, let me sneak in a stealth Secret Life of Books question to you, which I've never had a chance to ask you before. What makes a book a classic for you, Gretchen?
I think it's this idea that you can return to it over and over again, and you always see something new, either because you as the reader are different because you're in a different part of your life, or you pick up something that you've never picked up before.
Isn't that interesting? Yeah. And I think it's also inexhaustible, partly because it reveals to you as a reader how much you change over time. So it's about the book, but it's also about you.
But did you two talk about the idea that ambiguity, if there's some fundamental ambiguity in the book, that also it keeps people engaged like over the decades because you can never truly determine something about
what the deal is.
Right.
And I would actually want to make the case that that's part of, I think that's what you're saying, that's part of what makes a classic. And I think it's part of the mixed up files, actually. You know, the ambiguities, they're soft, they're gentle, they're not clubbing you over the head. But there are some ambiguities, for example, about the Kincaid family. So Claudia and Jamie's family, they live in Greenwich, which is a very fancy New York commuter suburb, but there's something a little bit outsidery about them. We learn early on in a kind of humor, well, adults find it humorous aside from Claudia when she says, we don't have a full-time maid. We just have a cleaning lady who comes, I think, every day. Or no, she comes twice a week.
But I thought maybe that was just to establish Claudia's sense of grievance and she was sure everybody else got more allowance than she did and nobody else had to do as many chores as she did. So I'm not sure that we're supposed to think that she's correct.
I see.
Or is that just her feeling that she's
kind
put
of both,
upon?
Right?
Because
she's definitely put upon.
She has. That's part of why she's running away.
Yeah. So let's talk a bit about Claudia, Gretchen, because she's a wonderful main character, and you made a great point about her. There's a real change happening in her character as the book unfolds. And what do you think's going on?
Well, Claudia wants to be different. That's part of why she wants to run away. She wants to do something secret. She wants to plan. She wants to pull something off. She wants to leave behind the boredom of, what does she say? She was bored with simply being straight A Claudia Kincaid.
Yeah.
And you can tell that she really delights in just figuring out every single angle. That's part of what it is. But then as she's experiencing this running away, it gets bigger.
Yeah.
And just running away, she says to Jamie, it's not enough anymore. She needs to be changed in a different way, a bigger way.
And that's another way, I think, in which this book is so beautifully thought out. Because initially it just seems like they're going to run away to the Metropolitan. It seems like the question is, are they going to pull it off?
Yes.
Are they going to get caught, etc.?
Yes.
And then it actually transforms into this story of what, again, seems to be sort of an intellectual mystery. Namely, did Michelangelo carve this sculpture, but actually turns into a kind of characterological and psychological mystery. Is Claudia going to find the thing in herself that she hasn't yet found? The thing that takes her beyond just being a straight A student. And again, I think that's where Mrs. Basil E. Frankweiler comes in this amazing way. She's telling the story.
Yes.
She obviously closely identifies with Claudia. And so we can sort of glimpse adult Claudia. We can glimpse the Claudia that she's trying to get to, even though Claudia doesn't know.
Yes.
Because Mrs. Basil E. Frankweiler is telling the story. And I think it's very moving. It's very beautiful. One of my favorite scenes in the book, and this is a little bit of a spoiler, is when they end up at Mrs. Frankweiler's house, which is in Farmington, Connecticut. It's a very fancy mansion, basically filled with artwork.
And the taxi driver, this is all her property. It's a very funny scene.
It's a great scene. And Mrs. Frankweiler invites Claudia to go take a bath. And it's one of the best scenes.
No, she doesn't invite her. Remember, she says, you can go wash up, and Claudia just decides to take a bath. She's like, I'll never have another chance like this.
That's right. Yes. And there's like gold taps and, marble and stuff. And it's this
Claudia
wonderful scene of someone coming into themselves as an adult and just loving the sensuous pleasure of bathing and so on. And Claudia's a beautiful character. There's another turning point moment for Claudia's character. So her genius seems to be that she's plotted this adventure out. She's thought about how to get from their house in Greenwich to the train station to the Met, et cetera, et cetera. So we think she's just really good on the logistics. And then there's this crucial moment towards the end when they end up visiting Mrs. Frankweiler, and they're at Grand Central Station. They're about to go home to their their parents' house in Greenwich and sort of admit defeat. And Claudia suddenly interrupts Jamie, her brother, who's ordering the tickets, and she says, no, we're going to Farmington, Connecticut. And part of why it's such a great turning point is that Claudia goes off script. And so we know that she's kind of growing up and finding herself.
Yes.
Yeah, she's finding a new gear.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
That's because in the moment you're like, why are they going to Farmington, Connecticut? Because it's a clue that's been planted very subtly.
Yeah.
But right on the page.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so good.
Okay, Sophie, let's get going. Let's walk over to the Met so we can look at some of the places and objects that appear in the novel. Because I have to say, the very first time I visited the Met as a college student, the first thing I did was run around and look for the stuff.
Yeah, we're going live, Gretchen. We're going out into the streets of New York and the wild, wild terrain of the Metropolitan Museum. And word of warning, we are not taking a compass.
No, we're not. Okay, we're out on the street. We're halfway to the Met.
Yeah, we're on a really important corner right now, Gretchen. This is the corner of Madison and 80th Street. And the reason it's important is that E.L. Konigsberg says that it's the most civilized street corner in the world. And I'm sort of thinking that when Claudia and Jamie were here, there was probably not a Love Shack fancy on one corner and a L'Occitane soap shop on the other, but here we are. Now, I just want to read one tiny passage. Actually, hang on. Oh, here we go. Okay, so here we are from Claudia. We'd better walk up Madison Avenue, she told her brother. I'll see too many ways to spend our precious money if we walk on Fifth Avenue, which tells us something interesting about the city changing. She and Jamie did not walk exactly side by side. Her violin case kept bumping him, and he began to walk a few steps ahead of her. As Claudia's pace slowed down from what she was sure was an accumulation of carbon dioxide in her system, she wanted to get a taxi. Jamie's face quickened. Soon he was walking a block and a half ahead of her. They would meet when a red light held him up. At one of these mutual stops, Claudia instructed Jamie to wait for her on the corner of Madison Avenue and 80th Street, for there they would turn into Fifth Avenue. She found Jamie standing on that corner, probably one of the most civilized street corners in the whole world, consulting a compass and announcing that when they turned left, they would be heading due northwest. So, Gretchen, let's head due northwest.
Yes, okay. We see the edge of the Met looming before us. Here we go. Coming up, Sophie and I actually go inside the Met and start looking around. But first, this break. I've been trying to say yes more to little adventures. Nothing huge, just getting out of the routine and going somewhere different for the day. And it really makes you appreciate having a car that feels solid and comfortable, where you're not thinking about the drive, you're just focused on where you're going. That's what stood out to me about the Defender. It has that rugged design, but it also feels really thoughtful inside. And I like that there's a full lineup, from the 2-door 90 to the 110 and the 130 with seating for up to 8. So it really fits different kinds of plans.
And it's built with those durable, purposeful materials so you can actually use it without worrying about every little thing. It also has features that make driving feel easier, like ClearSight technology and the Pivi Pro system, so you can keep track of where you're going and everything you want to listen to along the way. Plus, with up to 89 cubic feet of cargo space and available 3 rows, it gives you a lot of flexibility depending on what you're bringing with you. Explore the full Defender lineup at LandRoverUSA.com. Lately, I've been trying to simplify what I wear day to day. Just pieces that feel easy but still put together. I do not want to overthink it. And I have been reaching for Quince a lot. No surprise there. Everybody knows my love for Quince. I love their linen pieces. They're so breathable, but they still look polished. They're the kind of thing you can wear all day and not think about changing.
And when I saw the price, I honestly double-checked. Everything is priced 50 to 80% less than similar brands because Quince works directly with ethical factories. Like you, Elizabeth, I just find that Quince makes getting dressed simpler and the pieces actually hold up. Quince uses premium materials like European linen and organic cotton, so you're getting quality without the usual markup. Refresh your everyday with luxury you'll actually use. Head to quince.com/Gretchen for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. That's QUINCE.com/Gretchen for free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/Gretchen. Okay, we're in the museum and we are standing in the magnificent Great Hall, which is quite imposing.
It's absolutely extraordinary, and you can see why Claudia Kincaid picked the Metropolitan Museum. She says that she can't go anywhere that isn't elegant, and boy, she must have felt fabulous walking in here, even in the 1960s, when they probably didn't have these stunning vases of fresh flowers. That there's a bequest that gives special fresh flowers to the Metropolitan Museum. I'm pro flowers. I'm gonna declare myself. This week or this month, it's forsythia. So the feeling of spring is all around us in this gloriously elegant hall.
Yeah. Okay. So now we're going to walk through. Let's start in the Egyptian wing. There's a lot of good Egyptian stuff. Okay, Sophie, here we go.
Okay.
Well, almost first thing as we enter the Egyptian wing is we see that tomb.
It's the tomb of
Perneb.
It's the tomb of Perneb. We did a little cheat there. We checked the plot. And they run into a school group.
Yeah, they run into their school group. It's people that they actually know, so they have to suddenly hide.
They have to lay low, which they succeed in doing. But they love the Egyptian wing, and I think it's because there's something incredibly magical and mysterious about the Egyptian material.
Yeah, and you can actually go into the temple. Okay, there's more to see in the Egyptian. Off we go. Okay, Sophie, Claudia and Jamie didn't see this, but this is my very favorite object in the entire Met.
Describe it and tell us why. It's beautiful.
It's called the god Horus protecting King Nectanebo II, which is not the most mellifluous name, but it's gray whack and it's just pure. It's the god Horus. It's so stern. It's so beautiful.
It's unbelievably beautiful. I'm so glad we stopped because I've never really looked that closely at this before. There's something about how it's small that incredibly impactful.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, it is small for an Egyptian thing.
And it's kind of the spirit of this book because Claudia wants to know everything and then she settles for knowing a little bit every day and just finding something new every time you come into a museum. It's so much what you're supposed to do.
Exactly. Okay, now let's go look for the cat.
Yeah.
Okay, here we are. We're looking at the cat
Yep.
statue, which is described as having a smug expression, much like exactly like Claudia's.
And there's a phenomenal illustration that we just took a photo of where Claudia does indeed look like a Cheshire cat.
Yes.
But isn't it a beautiful cat? And it's got that same quality that the Horus statue had of it's very compact, it's very tight, but it has incredible power.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
So good.
Okay. So, Sophie, I just have to show you this. My fantasy is that if I were the head of the Met, I would put in a permanent statue or installation of 2 instrument cases and a book bag and just have them in the corner so that everybody could find it. So this is the corner. It's this sort of little nothing corner that's roped off along one of the Egyptian corridors.
I think it's fair to say it's the least civilized corner in the Metropolitan Museum.
Like, what's going on? Do something here. Yeah.
They need to get that. That's such a good idea.
Wouldn't that be fun? You should find it.
We need to suggest it.
Okay, we'll get on that. Okay, something to do.
So Gretchen, we're now in the European decorative arts in these incredible rooms that have been installed within the Metropolitan Museum, and this is the perfect moment. Tell us about the popcorn.
Yes, so when E.L. Konigsberg was a mother of 3 children, she would take art classes, and during that time her children would wander around the Met, and then she would join them. And according to her son, Paul, one time when they were wandering around, they were looking at a room, just like the room we're looking at, that was roped off and very formal, but there was one piece, one kernel of popcorn far across the room sitting on a cushion. And she said, I wonder how that piece of popcorn got there. And they always speculated that maybe that was the kernel of an idea.
Boom, you got there.
Who had been eating popcorn in that room.
And here's what Paul Konigsberg said about those trips to the Met all those years ago. He says, I was the oldest, so I was in charge, and I had 3 rules. 1, we had to see the mummy. 2, we had to see the knights in armour. And 3, I didn't care what we saw. Mom would meet up with us in the museum, take us to study Impressionist or modern art. It always made me want to puke. But we did it every weekend for over a year. So he's obviously the Jamie Kincaid.
Exactly. Okay, onward. Okay, here we are looking at a bed that's very much like the bed that they slept in. It's big, it's formal, it's probably very musty, but it isn't this exact bed because that exact bed is now gone. And one of the things, it's been a long time since the book came out, and a lot of the things, the specific things that they looked at and referenced aren't here exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're here in spirit.
Yeah.
So one of the most iconic things in the whole book is the Fountain of the Muses, which is this enormous sort of swimming pool-sized fountain in the middle of what used to be the restaurant. Very elegant, very Claudia compliant. And they end up going and bathing in this fountain and discovering, of course, that it has coins on the base, and they find them with their feet because it's dark. And as Jamie says, income. So they start scooping the coins off the bottom. So that fountain has gone. It turned out to be a health hazard. It was removed in the 1980s. It now lives in South Carolina in a public park. But at the time, the room where the fountain was installed was famously decorated by an amazing New York designer called Dorothy Draper, and the room was nicknamed the Dorotheum by scathing New York financiers and supporters of the museum. All those men joked about it being the Dorotheum. But I think that's very appropriate for dear Claudia, who we love so much, who comes into her heroism in that room.
Yes. Yeah, that fountain is gone, but there are other water features in the Met. But
Sure are, but not that one.
Okay. Okay, our last stop inside the Met is in the bathroom, which is not a very elegant stuff, but it played a very important role in allowing the children to hide out in, which was a phrase that Claudia did not appreciate. But they spent a lot of time in the bathrooms.
Totally. And the bathrooms are crucial because in the low-tech days of the 1960s, they were really able to sneak into a stall and just stand on the toilet. And here's the passage. Claudia explains the plan. Claudia explained to Jamie that he was to enter a booth in the men's room and then stand on it, she continued. Stand on it? Stand on what? Jamie demanded. You know, Claudia insisted. Stand on it. You mean stand on the toilet? Jamie needed everything spelled out. What else would I mean? What else is there in a booth in the men's room? And keep your head down. And keep the door to the booth very slightly open. Claudia finished. Clever Claudia. Feet up, head down, door open. Why? Because I'm certain that when they check the ladies' room and the men's room, they peek under the door and check only to see if there are feet. We must stay there until we're sure all the people and guards have gone home. What about the night watchman? Jamie asked.
So we see Claudia's exquisite attention to detail.
And she pulls it off.
And she pulls it off. Okay, now we're on the steps. We've left the inside and we're on the very grand staircase in front.
It's magnificent. It may be one of the most important and iconic views in all of New York City with the pretzels and the cabs and the street corner. It's so great. That was wonderful, Gretchen.
Yeah. But I'm kind of glad to sit down because we definitely got our move 26 in. We were racing around.
We covered some steps. And so in the book, Claudia says she thinks that the security guard's going to cover 20 acres of floor space before he comes back again. So you can get your exercise in going around the Met.
Yeah. I often, at the end of my visits, I'll often walk quickly for 10 minutes just to get like 10 minutes of rapid walking, and then I do sort of make a circuit, which I enjoy.
Yeah. And I want to do a quick shout out for the audiobook version of the Mixed Up Files. It's one of the very best audiobooks I've ever heard, and it's absolutely perfect for put it in your ears, get moving, and enjoy the Mixed Up Files of Mrs. Basil E. Frankweiler. This has been so much fun, Gretchen.
Has been so much fun.
It totally answered our expectations. And so on The Secret Life of Books, we always ask, is this book underrated or overrated? Gretchen, which is it?
I think it cannot be overrated. And so it's justly considered a towering classic of children's literature, all literature, and I think it deserves it. What do you think?
Now, when I say that on The Secret Life of Books, Jonty jumps on me and says you cannot hedge by saying it's justly rated. It has to be over or under. So I am going to say it's underrated. As much loved as it is, it should be loved even more.
Yes.
It's a great work of fiction. One of the classics. One of the true classics.
Yes. So get your movement by running out to get the book from your library or your favorite bookstore, or start walking while you're listening to the audiobook.
You're going to love it.
And that's it for this special Move 26 episode. I hope you're feeling happier, and I hope that you're feeling great from your 26 minutes of moving. I had such a great time talking to Sophie Gee. Listen to The Secret Life of Books, one of my favorite podcasts. Don't forget to join the annual challenge in the Happier app, where you can track your aim, or you can try out our Move 26 bingo card, which is new this year. Remember, The best time to start a happiness project is 20 years ago. The second best time is now.